How are you? Oh, okay, real quick. Before we go anywhere, can we comment on the creepiness of the smoke? This is, I feel like I'm in, like this, like we're on Mount Sinai and the glory cloud of God has settled upon us. I mean, like, I think you could literally pick this up and take it home with you. Like, look at this. It is as if a plague is slowly coming to wipe this section out. Oh, no, oh, it's moving because you blew on it. Okay, ooh, that's, uh-oh. That is literally a ghost. Just so you know, that is a ghost. You're haunted. Okay. Good luck with that. Now no one's going to pay attention to the talk. We're like, what? It's like a beautiful wispy roof has settled upon our heads. Anyway, why am I talking about this so much? Oh, sweet Moses, my throat is killing me. Who slept a lot last night? I know this isn't the Christian thing to say, but I hate all of you. I went to bed happy. I had a podcast playing about technology. I had a smile on my face and a pep in my step, and then I woke up like 4,000 times throughout the night just because I'm a fussy sleeper. Anywho, I want to thank you for coming today. I want to thank you for being here. Now, remember, this is part of commitment, right? You have committed, most of you. Those of you who did not stand up and light your candle, I want to say thank you for being honest. Thank you for being authentic. God loves a truth liver, right? And a liver of truth. If you didn't feel comfortable doing that, then that's awesome that you didn't do it. You should never just go with the flow. And for those of you who did, I'm super excited that you did. But part of this about entering into this weekend is for the talks. Okay, I'm going to invite you. How many of y'all have smart, intelligent phones, right? Phones that are very intelligent and witty. You may take them out if you have them with you. Sometimes youth ministers, they put them in a steel trap. If you want, you can take them out and use to take notes. We'll all pretend that you're not really on Facebook, but I'm Instagramming the fog. Whatever. If many of you have journals and stuff like that, that's awesome. But I want to talk about something really important today. The first quote comes from a man named Thomas à Kempis. It's attributed to him anyway. He wrote a book called The Imitation of Christ. In the history of the world, books that have been sold over and over again down through the centuries, the Bible is the #1 bestseller. So much so that every single year they just bracket it and remove it from all bestseller lists because it's the perennial bestseller. The other book that for centuries was the #2 bestseller was called Imitation of Christ. It was written in about the 1200s. It was written for people in religious orders to try to help them grow in virtue. Smoke is really creeping me out. And so they have this awesome line that I loved. And he said, I'm in college and I'm reading this, and I encounter this line, and honestly, it scares me by how simple it is and by how just like utterly life-changing this one line can be. And the line is this: if we would devote ourselves to one fault for an entire year, soon we should be perfect. Right? Just pick one fault that you have. For an entire year, you just were to pick one fault, one thing that you do. That one thing that you do. And you were just to pick that one fault and work on it and work on it. You were to choose the opposing virtue. If it's a vice, you would, do whatever it takes. And you just spend a year. You're going to fail, you're going to falter, you're going to run back to that sin or whatever it is. But you've given yourself a year to rip it out of your life. A really good friend of mine is a drug addict. And so part of going through drug addiction and breaking free of that is recognizing how drug addiction messes up so much of your life. And so one of the things that he did, it took him about a year, but he had to find alternate routes to work. Because he knew, see, this is the thing that you don't think about. He knew that by driving down on the highway at this time of day, passing that one exit, he would always take that to go buy drugs. He had to completely reprioritize how he drove. I have a friend who is an alcoholic who can't eat rum cake, not because you're going to get drunk on rum, but because even the reminder of alcohol will be enough to tempt him back into a world of drink. Right? So we use these things, right? I had another friend who was one of my wife's teens who was addicted to pornography on the internet. So he took his computer out of his bedroom and he put it in the kitchen. His mom's like, "Why are you doing that?" And he's like, better I put it in here. And he didn't want to tell his parents, so he thought, yes, this will be perfect. It's in a public space. I'm never going to be tempted to look at pornography in a public space. But then one day, his mom and dad, everyone was gone from the house, and he's like, wait, oh no, everyone's gone, so it doesn't matter. So he's like, I'm just going to unplug the Ethernet cord. And then he's like, well, I'll just end up plugging it back in and looking at it. And so he's like trying to figure out what to do. So he goes, well, I'll just cut the Ethernet cord. That way there's no internet. And then he goes, well, I can't cut the Ethernet cord because then my mom will be like, why did you cut this? And then I'll have to tell her why. Because, Mom, I'm addicted to internet pornography. And that's not a conversation he was ready to have. So what did he do? Well, he did the only thing a man knows what to do. He chewed the wire and blamed it on the dog, right? So he literally just like, he chewed it, plugged it back in, and was like, oh, Scruffy, you're horrible. And I know that's so funny, but that's like a radical thing he had to do in order to get away, right? That was a tragic note. That was the last straw, and they had to put the dog down. But that's not, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. God, that would have been funny though, right? He's like sitting there like, well, Scruffy, you are being offered up. You know, weird. But that's weird. Let's not. But so let's just come back to me. Come back to me. Come along, little doggies. When we look at our lives, when it's time now, you guys are adults, whether you like it or not, but when we look at our lives and we begin to do an assessment of our lives and say, okay, what is something that's in my life that's preventing me from having a better relationship with God, that's preventing me from having a deeper relationship with those I love, with my family, with my friends? What are those things? What are those self-destructive habits? Just think of it this way. Imagine there was a button, and you could push that button, and magically something that whatever you wanted would just disappear from your life. You know, for instance, you know, maybe like that one kid, right? You struggle with internet pornography or something like that, and you're like, well, it's so difficult to just imagine myself free because I've been, you know, struggling with this or addicted to it for so long. But if I could just push a button and it'd be gone tomorrow, I would push that button. Or maybe for some of you, it's a relationship. Maybe you're involved in a pretty messed up relationship with someone. Maybe it's manipulative or guilt-ridden or something like that. And you knew that if you could push that button and there'd be none of that relationship shrapnel, you know, when you end a relationship and all the friends get angry and all this mixed up stuff. If you could push that button, you would totally push it right now in order to get rid of that relationship. Maybe that's that one thing for you. See, what ends up happening in our lives is that we all have, every one of us in this room has at least that one thing. I was talking with the priest, and he introduced me, and I was doing this topic, and he said, that one thing, more like that 40 things. And I said, that's absolutely true. We might have 50, 20, a million things that we actually have to work on in our lives, but I don't care about any of them. I only care about that one thing. This is the title track of the retreat, this talk right here. That one thing. What is that one thing that is holding you back from a deeper relationship with God? That if you just said, you know what? Okay, I got all these issues in my life. I got all these things. But if I were to focus on this one thing for a year, I'm promising you that by March, your life will be better. It might take you to the end of the year. It might take you 2 years. But if you spend this time, you will notice the results. You will see the change, and it will spur you on for greater things. Now, what is your one thing? Please don't raise your hand. What is your one thing? What is your one thing? What is that one thing that's keeping us away from God? See, here's the crazy thing. Whenever I say this, the weird thing is about 80, 90% of you immediately know what that one thing is. You're like, oh, yeah, it's that. My boyfriend, it's my girlfriend, it's my relationship with my parents, it's drinking. You know, I work with adults, right? I do adult faith formation now. And I said this is the line I said to him. I have about 600 adults in a room, and I said, hey, do you know how there's an infallible test to figure out if you have a drinking problem or not? Do you know what that infallible test is? And this might apply to some of you. You know, like, whoa. And I said, if someone has ever come up to you and said, I think you have a drinking problem, you probably have a drinking problem. And they're all like, ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, no, really, do you know what it's like to have to confront someone about that? Like, the person that said that to you, they might have been like, well, I really, you know, the first time, the second time, the third time, oh my God, this is getting out of control. They just drink to get drunk. It's horrible. Bad things are happening. And then they start building up this thing, and they're like, I should say, no, I don't want to appear like a jerk. I don't want to appear like I'm, being like holier than thou. And they wrestle with this. And when they finally, it could probably be months, get up the courage to say something, and you just dismiss it. Oh, I don't have a problem. You're the one with the problem, and you're ugly too, and I'm going to kill your dog. But no, don't do that. Don't do that. But that's the thing, is that's how you know you have a drinking problem when one of your friends says, hey, I think you have a drinking problem. Because they wouldn't say it if they didn't think it. So I did this, and I said, I'll say that part later. But whenever we enter into this stuff, maybe it is drinking. Maybe it is a relationship. How is your relationship with your parents? I know for a lot of teenagers, it's a lot of hostility. For other teenagers, it's awesome. It's not a problem. For some teenagers, your parents are rock solid. For others, all they do is throw rocks. For some, you might experience disappointment from your parents. Maybe that's what if you could push a button and fix it right now, you would be like, yeah, my relationship with my dad, all we do is fight. My relationship with my dad or my mom, all we do is argue. You'd push that button right now. Maybe it's a label. Maybe it's a label. You know how I said when I do adult faith formation now, it's the same problems that teenagers have? I had a core team. I was doing a core team training. So I had all these youth ministry adult volunteers. And I said, what was the label you received when you were in middle school? And I was like, give me some examples. And they all remember the labels that other people gave them, the mean nicknames or whatever it was, or just the stereotypes, like, oh, that's the smart one, that's the book nerd one, or that's the athlete. And the athlete's like, but I also love to dance, right? And it can be a million things. It can be a million things, right? It can be so many different things, but these labels, they get stuck on us. When I was in a Catholic school, I was the only person in the school thinking about being a priest. So what did they call me in 9th grade? Father Mike. Saint Mike. Oh, look, there goes Saint Mike, right? So I had immediately been pigeonholed. So much to the point where there was a Satanist that went to our school, big Marilyn Manson fan. And he would talk, and I used to listen to Marilyn, but anyway, and he would see me, and he was like, he would just walk in and be like, I just want you to know I hate you. And I'm like, what's your name? Like, he knew nothing of me. He just said, you want to be a priest? I hate you. I'm like, why? And so then he made it a point to find me. My favorite day, he walks up to me, and he's wearing an upside-down cross, right? And he's like, check out my cross, priest. And I look at him, and I go, upside-down cross? I had no idea you had such a beautiful devotion to St. Peter, who was crucified upside down. That is wonderful. And he's like, shut up, man. Shut up. And I'm like, no, that is a very beautiful thing. Oh. Didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. Maybe it's a label you were given when you were in junior high. Ladies, was 7th grade the worst year of your life? When I was at Franciscan University, I talked to 120 women, and I asked them, what was the worst year of your life? And it was like the insane majority was 7th or 8th grade, but most of it was 7th grade. And I started asking them, like, what happened in 7th grade besides puberty? That's like the worst thing ever. And it was that, and it was like old friends just turned to enemies, and new friends people were just jerks. And I would talk to this one girl, and she was like, I didn't realize, I always thought I was alone. I used to eat my lunch in the bathroom because I was so scared, and I just didn't want to be made fun of anymore. And this is an insanely popular girl at school, but then, and so I'm like, you used to eat in the bathroom? She goes, yeah, I felt so alone until I saw it happen on the movie Mean Girls. And then I was like, there's someone else out there like me. And I was like, don't cheer too hard, that's Lindsay Lohan. What is your one thing? Maybe it's a sin you commit. Maybe it's a habitual sin in your life. Maybe it's a sin that has become so much, that you've committed so often, it's just become a part of you, that you don't even know how to envision your life without it. Maybe that's the reason you don't like going to confession. A lot of people don't. I can't understand why people don't like going to confession. You just find the holiest guy you know and tell him the worst parts about your life. That sounds like fun. No, it's not fun. It's the weirdest thing we do as Catholics, but dang, it is good. It is the most healing, therapeutic thing on the face of the earth, let alone the spiritual benefits that we get of hearing those words. I absolve you of your sins. Pro tip, when the priest goes to bless you, don't give him a high five. So many people think that the priest is going to give them a high five. They're like, I bless you. Okay. High five you do. was talking with this one person, and they said, I don't like going to confession. Why? Because I feel like all I do is confess the same sins over and over again. You ever feel like that when you go to confession? You start doing it a little bit regularly. It's like, well, I wrote down a list. I don't recommend you writing down lists. Sometimes it's helpful, but one time I left my list in the backseat of my parents' car. My mom was like, what's that? And I'm like, no. Of course, the top sins were, I love too much, I serve too much. No, I'm just kidding. What are those sins in your life? I don't want you to tell me, I want you to tell you. For the greatest way that we can grow in holiness is not that we pretend we don't have faults. It's that we know them, we name them, and we conquer them. But the moment you start naming a fault, the moment you pull out that grocery list of sins, right? What's the devil going to do? The devil is going to start whispering in your ear, man, look how long that list is. Man, look how many times you commit just that one sin. You think you're going to be free? You're not going to be free. This is going to be impossible for you. Oh, you're a liar, so you want to work on why you lie so much? Yeah, but I mean, you lie a lot. And let's not also forget, you cheat a lot. And let's not also forget, and what the devil does, the word Satan in Greek, Satanus, means the accuser or the prosecutor. When you would go to an ancient Greek courtroom, not a cork room, that's a wine place. When you would go there, there would be two people, right? The Perikletos and the Satanus. The Satanus was the accuser, the prosecutor, and the Perikletos or the Paraclete was your defender, your counselor. Jesus would take the name Satan, or tell the name Satanus is the name of the devil who comes and accuses us. What does he accuse us of? He accuses us of sin. That seems pretty messed up. Why does he accuse us of sin? Because he wants us to feel its crushing weight so that we will think we will never be free. And so he slips in there right when we think, oh my gosh, maybe by March I can stop doing this. I can stop letting this relationship dominate my life. I can stop letting these horribly abusive things happen to me. I can stop doing these bad things or accepting this label or doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden the whisper comes in, yeah, but you've got so many other things to work on. You're so broken. Or, this is the other thing the devil does. He comes up to you and you're like, yeah, man, you're right. This is your one thing. Totally. Well, let's just do it. Let's just work on it. Let's do this. And you're like, okay, I got this. Right, you got this. You don't need to tell anyone. You don't need to let anyone know. You got this. Besides, if you tell someone, that's going to be horribly embarrassing. I mean, you don't want to admit your weakness to someone else. You got this. Don't tell anyone. Don't let someone else help you. That's stupid. Don't tell the priest. That's annoying. Like, your priest, you're friends with them. Don't do that. And what ends up happening, so he does one of two things. He either puts the whole weight of your sin upon you in order to discourage you, or he tells you the lie that you got this. But here's the problem, brothers and sisters. You don't got this. You remember the song from the German band Snap? I got the power. Right, that's an annoying song. Right? It's okay. You know that song. Those were fresh dance moves. Have you heard that song? I mean, it's from when I was a kid, so 7,000 years ago. But it's this horrible, cheesy pop song where they keep saying over and over again, I got the power. And one day I was listening to the radio. That really hurts my voice. I was listening to the radio while I was reading the Bible one time. And I was reading Psalms or Proverbs, and right when I was hearing the chorus, there's a line that says, say not, I have the power. And I was like, oh, they're going to hell. It's true. No, but what they mean by that is simply this. Have you ever done something where after you did it, you look back and you're like, why did I do that? What was I thinking? Have you ever done, I have like literally thousands of those things. I'm like, I remember one time I stacked yogurt on a shelf inside my refrigerator, and you open it up and all the yogurt fell out and went everywhere. And I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I think, and we do silly things, we do stupid things. Why did I put myself into a compromising situation? Why did I put myself there? Why did I do those things? Why did I, allow them to do those things to me? And we start going through all these different stuff, and we start struggling with all these different things. And the thing is this, I can't answer that question. You're the one that did it. Why did I do it? I don't know, man. You're the one that did it, right? And that's what you say to yourself. We don't even know why we do these things sometimes. St. Paul has this awesome line. We're going to start wrapping up right now. St. Paul has this awesome line where he says, I do the very thing that I don't want to do. Or he says, I do the very thing that I hate, and I don't do the very thing that I want to do. Oh, who will deliver me from this wretched body of death? And then he praises Jesus Christ. So here's the deal. This is what I'm going to propose to you today. The devil, the accuser, is going to let you examine your conscience. And that one thing is going to bubble up to the surface. Maybe it's a label, maybe it's a sin. Maybe it's someone else in your life that's just pulling you down. Maybe it's drinking. Maybe it's sexual relationships or pornography or something like that. He's going to let you, either he's going to fill you with the full weight or he's going to make you hide it and say, you got this. Both are lies. You don't. Because your will is part of the problem. My will is part of the problem. Do you ever watch The Simpsons? Greatest show that has ever existed. There's this wonderful episode where Bart wins a radio call-in show contest. And he wins as his prize a ginormous elephant named Stampy. And so now Bart has this elephant named Stampy. At the very end of the show, they're going to put him in a wildlife preserve. And Homer's there. Homer's not paying attention, as you do. And he finds that he is in a tar pit and he is sinking. So his feet are in the tar pit. He can't get himself out. And he goes, oh, look, my feet are in a tar pit. I'll pull them out with my hands. And then he shoves his hands in. And now his hands are stuck. And he's almost, and then he goes, oh no, now my hands are stuck. I'll pull them out with my face. And then he shoves his face and now he's completely in the tar pit. Now, the great thing is the story ends with Stampy reaching his trunk in and pulling Homer out of the tar pit. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful version of the gospel. Right? That's what most people thought. Why? Because we were the ones that we think we can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You know that it's literally not possible. You got bootstraps like, I'm going up. Okay, that didn't work. That was meaty. Whenever like this whole thing about like your willpower, you can do it, you got this, all this stuff, you don't got this. And it's okay that you don't got this because your will is part of the problem. But how do we find freedom? We can't pull our feet out of the muck and the mire and the sin and the bad relationships. How do we find freedom? We find freedom by someone on the outside who isn't suffering the same sin, who isn't bound in chains, who doesn't have those habits or bad relationships. And that person has to be the one to reach in and pull us out. Jesus Christ came into this world, came behind enemy lines, but he didn't suffer from sin. It's the very thing that he came to claim for us, a life without regret. This is how Jesus describes his ministry. I come that you might have life and have it overwhelmingly. John 10:10. I come that you might have life and have it overwhelmingly. But so many Christians have settled for mediocrity. So many Christians aren't living the life that God has ordained and blessed them to live. And they're caught in their chains. They feel like they're defined by their labels that their peers have given them or their parents have given them. And now they look at a life of people making decisions for them. And they wonder, where did it all go? So for you right now, we're just going to stop everything. Just going to stop everything. I want you to think. This is part of growing up. It's the worst part of growing up. Responsibility. What is your one thing? You could push a button right now and it would stop. It would all go away. What's your one thing? And I don't mean like to hide from responsibilities. I mean like a sin, a habit, an attitude. If you got that laundry list of sins, the same sins you confess every time, do yourself a favor and say, why do I commit these same sins every time? Why these sins? Why over and over again? And then you'll get at the attitudes and behavior behind that sin. Why do I lie all the time? Because I'm afraid. Why do I cheat? Because my pride says I would rather cheat than fail. Why do I engage in promiscuous relationships? Because I'm afraid of being alone. What's your one thing? What's your one thing? What's your one thing? Maybe it's an old hurt. Maybe it's a new hurt. Maybe it's something stupid you did last spring break. You can't get it out of your mind. But you need to find some way to get away from it. And hiding hasn't worked. Now I know this part is supposed to be very introspective, and we're tired. We didn't get any sleep last night. And my throat is killing me. But I need you to hear this. What is your one thing? one of the exercises that we're going to do after small group is that I'm going to invite you to write down, without your name, don't put your name on it, awkward, no names, to write down. It might take you one word, it might take you a paragraph, but you're going to be given slips of paper in small group, and to write down what is your one thing. Because imagine if a year from now you were free from that. Imagine what your relationships would be like if you were free from that. Imagine how your spiritual life would be going if you were free from that. Imagine how your relationships with your parents would go if you were free from that. Too many people say today that they want to be happy, but we thwart our own happiness. What is your one thing? I don't know it. It's between you and God. One of my favorite lines, St. Francis of Assisi says, what a man is before God, that he is, and nothing else. I don't know if he said nothing, but this is my paraphrase. So take a moment. Let's think. I like this. Some of you are like, I don't even think. I know it. I got 20, but this is the number uno. That's German. What is it? When we transition into small groups, we're gonna have some small group questions that talk about this stuff. But the idea is this: we all want to be happy. Every person in this room wants to be happy. Jesus Christ put that desire in your heart. The difference is happiness and holiness are the exact same thing. Union forever with God. Nothing this world can offer you will ever satisfy your heart, because your heart was made for the infinite. My wife is amazing. She's beautiful. She's hilarious. She's organized, and I am not. She is amazing, but she is not enough for me. And I will never be enough for her. The most beautiful relationship that God has given humanity, marriage, it's still not enough. Why? Because I need to give myself away to an absolute. I need to give myself away to something that is pure goodness, that will never change, that'll never rob me, that'll never use me. Pleasures don't work. Every drug addict knows that. Pleasures don't work. They're good. God created our ability to have pleasure, but it's not enough. Too many people live lives of quiet desperation. What does it mean to be happy? St. Thomas Aquinas gives us 3 words. God alone satisfies. That one thing doesn't. And I'm giving you permission to destroy it in your life. And 1 year from now, maybe we can touch base via Skype, and you can tell me what it's like to be free. Let's pray. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.